The knights found that there were no colors about which the priests spoke about, so they were going to leave. Raka, hiding behind a tree, at that time decided to think over everything that he heard from the knights. Firstly, he found out that the emperor arrived in the temple in order to hold a blessing ceremony, but it had to be stopped. Secondly, the location of Shakira's flowers did not have a relationship to the imperial family, and something else happened. Thirdly, at present, flowers did not bloom here, and he needed to come up with some kind of decision. In this case, Maya, who possessed the same abilities as Shakira flowers, was really needed for him, just in case he wanted to prevent her from getting away from the work of the nanny. But as a result, everything worked out, and this is for the better. True, now another obstacle arose for Raka. Why was he and the girl so good? It alarming him. Finding next to her was like the effect of the Shakira flower. He felt that he was losing all his energy. His mind and body, which lost control, wanted to be near it. Possible. Contact is something like mediation. Speaking of touch, one specific person immediately came to the mind of Raka. He thought about the Rhine Adrian. She was also a girl who was able to immerse a person in a dream with just a touch. He was able to find her after a long investigation, but Maya was different from the Rhine that he knew. He could not let her go. Now the Duke had to buy a blonde some clothes in the nearest village. Since Maya's clothes broke, and she did not have the other, Raka felt the obligation to ensure her. While the girl was waiting for Raka's return, she felt that she was very tired and thought about taking a nap. She quickly fell asleep, and Raka, when he returned home, noticed her sleeping on the hall in the hallway. Trying not to make noise and not to disturb the girl's sleep, the young man gently sat down near her. He propped his head with a brush and hoped that the girl could relax and sleep well. The guy could not believe that he needed this woman, not even knowing about her real person. After some time, Delcane looked into the room to make sure that his brother had already returned from a walk. Raka asked the younger if Maya did something suspicious while he was not there, and Delcane said no. Also, the brunette asked whether Aisha was still puffing on him, and her evil cries from the next room was the answer. The door that was open until this moment closed. Delcane thought it was not to wake the priestess. Delcane once again became convinced that his brother liked this girl, since he cared about her. Raka asked the younger that the next day in the morning they would go home. Delcane nodded and went into the room to sleep. Hiding behind the door, he thought that, as he read in the book, at the beginning of the journey, lovers should have been in private more often. Therefore, in fact, the boy did not want to sleep. He simply allowed his brother and priestess to retire and have a good time together. The rest of the day flew by quietly, and when Maya woke up, was already night in the yard, and no one was nearby. The girl stretched. It seemed to her that she lay down only for a moment, and in the end she slept in half a day. She noticed that someone covered her while she was sleeping. It must have been a caring Delcane. Suddenly, Raka approached her and said to go into the room. Maya suggested that it was because someone came to them, but the brunette said that no one knew about this place. To get here, it was necessary to go through the forest. Nevertheless, someone still came, and this people obviously adhered to some plan. Maya decided just in case to take a pan with her and obediently went to the next room. She leaned against the closed door and tried to hear who and why came to their house. These were imperial knights. Raka opened the door for them, and they apologized for distorting him at such a late hour. The guy sternly replied that if they are sorry, then let them get out of here as soon as possible and do not cause him trouble. He said that they had nothing to look at and wanted to close the door, but the knights stopped him. They wanted to ask him something. One of the knights asked if Raka saw a woman here with blonde hair and blue eyes. Hearing this, Maya froze in place. Did they really look for her? But Raka answered them that he had not met such a girl. The knights would also like to personally inspect the house, but the Duke opposed them to burst without permission. In response to this, the men handed him the papers with the written permission of the emperor to inspect the houses of citizens. Therefore, without hesitation, 3 knights entered the house and promised that the inspection of the building would be fast. Maya all trembled with fear. One wrong step and she could be a lid. She could not make a mistake for nothing. The boys examined almost the entire house and then stopped near the twin room. Raka said that it is better for them not to open it. The outraged cries of Aisha came to Maya. Obviously, the knights nevertheless opened the door and stumbled upon rude beads. Realizing that soon the knights would get to her room, the saint decided to climb onto the bed and hide under the blanket. She did so, but managed to spend literally a couple of moments in her shelter when she heard Delcane's cries. One of the knights grabbed the boy, and he frantically twitched and bit, trying to break out of a strong man of a man. Losing his composure, the knight told him to be an obedient boy and stand calmly, and also called the child a jerk. And at that moment, the Mayan unexpectedly ran out of the room, hitting the knight behind the head with a pan. The girl wanted to protect the boy and was not enthusiastic about her act, but the children, on the contrary, considered her very cool. They expressed their admiration for her courage to the blonde, because of which the girl felt even more awkward. Aintia has already figured out the other two knights, so now it was necessary to leave as long as there was such an opportunity. It was better not to hesitate, because men could recover at any moment, and then they would not have greeted them. The elders and the children hastily changed clothes, collected things, and climbed into the carriage of Rocky, which he ordered the servants to fit in advance. Seeing in a carriage, the children continued to admire the girl's blow, saying that using a frying pan was a good idea. He honestly admitted that she herself did not quite understand how she did it. Apparently, simply the desire to protect Delcane was great. Interrupting the frivolous conversation of the priestess with the children, Raka asked her about why the Imperial Knights were looking for her. The brunette retold the words of the knights, that they were looking for a blonde with blue eyes in these parts. This is not a coincidence. But the fair-haired insisted on the opposite, that it was just like that. Circumstances agreed. She hoped that Raka would believe her. At the same moment, the children expressed their dissatisfaction with the fact that the elder brother scared the priestess with his strange questions. The girl found very sweet that the kids decided to stand up for her and protect, and Aisha even said that Maya would not marry her brother, but belonged to her, which was very surprised by the priestess. The girl thought that she had just said something very cool, but Delcane considered her sister's request, on the contrary, stupid. Aisha tried to prove that the fair-haired woman was so, because it was the brunette that was the first to hire the girl to work. The girl asked Lee Maya also counts. She uncertainly agreed that the hired person belonged to the employer. But the brunette was not enough for this formality. She wanted Maya to be completely her. She never gave her. Maya thought that before Raka was an embodiment for her, but Aisha now scared her more. At that moment, the Duke intervened in the conversation and told his sister that he was not going to take anyone away from her. Aisha just should now evaluate the opponent, because only Raka had the opportunity to fully hire someone. The girl said that the first said that she wanted to hire Maya. She belonged to her. But Raka did not agree. He told his sister that in this case she had to try, so that Maya would not be taken from her, which was possible. Listening to all these skirmishes and the fact that Aintia literally divided her, Maya suddenly wanted to jump out of the carriage. During the night, this whole company reached the castle, and the next day, Raka was already engaged in its business and work. He could not stop thinking that the girl was somehow connected with the imperial family, since they were looking for her. Judging by the circumstances, this, of course, was associated with its abilities. The identical flower of Shakira. It was necessary to quickly fill out the contract and hire Maya to work. He could not let them just take it from him, especially now, when there were no Shakira flowers. The girl and her abilities have gained much more value. The guy quickly compiled a document about hiring and carefully double-checked it for errors. At that moment, Rocky entered the office of Rocky, the assistant to the Duke, and apologized for lingering slightly. The brunette dispassionately noted that he had apparently relaxed until Raka was in the castle, but he did not agree. He vowed the width that, as always, he fulfilled his initial obligations, and he had no problems with this. Raka asked the guy, after that, was not any news about the imperial family. The width replied that something was. From yesterday, rumors have spread that the daughter of God appeared in the treatise temple, and her strength manifested itself. The guy did not remember exactly, but he said that it seems that the girl was called Maya. The brunette asked the servant what abilities this Maya possessed, which could be called by God's daughter. I did not know the width, so the brunette sent him to investigate this issue and then report to the Duke of Information. And also, Raka told him to find out everything about the woman who came with them, but to do it secretly. He accepted his tasks wide and wanted to leave, But then the Duke stopped him, because he remembered another moment. Raka asked the guy to convey to the fair-haired one so that she would get to his office for conversation right now. The young man nodded and left, and Antia reread the compiled document for the last time, thinking whether this was enough for the contract. Suddenly, he remembered another point that he forgot to add to the contract, and began to correct it. He wrote that Maya's salary will be 1,500 cores, but the employee will have to sleep with the employer every night. When the girl went up to the brunette's office, he immediately gave her the contract drawn up to get acquainted. She was beside herself with happiness when she read him and saw how much her salary would be. The guy jokingly asked if the salary was too small, to which the girl hastily replied that no. It pleased Raku. He asked if the girl read the conditions and whether she was ready to discuss the nuances of the contract. She ran through the document once again. Everything was as they agreed initially, except for one point. She asked Raka what meant the last clause of their contract. He replied that exactly what is written in him. The girl was surprised by the condition that she would have to sleep with the Duke every night. She would never agree. The young man suddenly got up from the table and asked the girl to return the document to him because he forgot to add something else there. Maya was indignant at the last condition because she was hired as a nanny for the twins and not for the Duke. The guy replied that he knew about this, but then this item was different from what he and Maya spoke about initially. Raka admitted that he desperately needed a girl, and that is why he added this position to the contract. The blonde said that she could not do anything for the Duke, but he did not agree, because she really could. The girl went crazy and did not understand why she could need the Duke in the middle of the night and why he spoke with her riddles. Did he really need her in order to serve the Duke's desire at night? How he dared to offer her like that? She replied quite sharply that she could not engage in the night service of the Duke, and he was surprised at her strange thoughts. The girl did not understand what else the reason could be, if now she was not right in her guesses. He answered her that he forgot to write in the paragraph that they would only have to hold hands when they go to bed. But the blonde still thought that after they hold hands, the Duke could demand a hug and kisses. Catching herself on such shameless thoughts, Maya tried to get rid of this nonsense that she sat in her head. In order to somehow dissuade the Duke from this point, the girl said that she would not wash before bedtime and wash her hair once a week. But contrary to what reaction was expected to see, Raka said that there was no problem in this. He respected her needs. Then she said that she had terrible habits in a dream. She screamed, snored, gritted her teeth, and spoke during sleep. And she added that she constantly let saliva in a dream, trying to push the brunette with this lies. Maya hoped that after that, the guy had a desire to sleep with her, and he would quickly cancel the last point. She said that she allegedly did not want to deliver the Duke of Inconvenience, but he agreed to sleep with her, even with all these nuances. The girl could not understand why. The brunette honestly replied that he needed the ability that Maya hid. From the very beginning, he guessed that, it seemed, Maya had the ability to neuralize a person. It was in this that he needed. Raka wanted the girl to help him calm down and fall asleep. And she thought with horror that he must have understood who she was. But, since the fair-haired person could never return to the temple, it was better to agree to the conditions of the Duke, which she did. However, the blonde herself had another condition that she would like to enter into their contract. She said that if the guy at least once violates the point with holding hands, then this item was supposed to completely disappear. Raka reassured her and said that he would not make any other contacts except his hands. This really reassured the girl, but she decided that she should have added another item to their contract before signing. She wanted the Duke to protect her from the temple and hide it. That would not happen. She had to do everything thoroughly and accurately. The young man said, a little uncertainly, that he could do everything she wanted, but some difficulties could arise with the temple. Nevertheless, they finished their reservation, and Maya handed the Duke of paper so that he signed them. And after that, the document took Maya. She urgently needed to sign in the papers until the Duke changed his mind about anything. She left her signature in the indicated place and returned the Duke an agreement that came into force from this day. The guy's eyes hooked on one small detail. He asked whether the girl was not true that the girl was not Mimir, as she said. The girl felt that something was wrong, but admitted to the Duke that her real name was the name of Maya. This was incredibly struck by the Duke, and he froze. feeling how cold everything was inside from what he heard. Was she really the same Maya from the Tritios temple? Feeling something was amiss, Maya hastened to hide in her room. Perhaps this was just luck. But the contract was already signed, which means now everything should have been good. Having run away from the Rocky office, Maya thought that she should not worry about the future, because the Duke now knew everything. Also, she could not stop thinking about the fact that her abilities acted on Raku, and he was aware of this. Could she be in order if she used her strength on the guy when he had not yet suspected this? Although, if you think about it, it differed from the blessing, and it is good that she could use her forces and not give them away. That's just why on earthly Rocky so unexpectedly required her abilities. While she was considering all this, she was found by the Gemini, who had already joyfully rushed in her direction, calling her. The children looked at her through the door, which led in Tessa, and asked to play with them, because she had already talked with her brother. Maya looked out into the street and asked the twins what they were doing here. Those hung on the railing of Tessessa, not reaching the ground. The girl told them that it was dangerous to hang so much and asked to go down. If they do this, then she will come to them. The children obeyed, and a few minutes later, the girl was next to them on the street. She asked them what they did. Aisha said she did not want to train and therefore ran away, and Delcana followed her. Children skipped classes. The fair-haired thought that the Gemini were still a loafers, but she could understand them. When Maya went to the academy, she also did not want to engage in cramming and often ran away from classes until no one saw. With a sigh, the blonde decided not to punish the children for their absenteeism. This somewhat surprised the children, who were afraid of condemnation. Aisha's eyes lit up, and she again said that she really liked the priestess. Delcane noticed that their brother also fell in love with the charm of the daughter-in-law. But Aisha was infuriated that the twin called Maya. The boy proved to her that Raka in the future would definitely marry a fair-haired one, but the brunette replied that she would not allow. Suddenly, the girl's attention switched to the priestess, and she asked her who Mai liked her more. She or Raka? The blonde was very sorry to admit it. But what if they both did not really like them? But she could not say that. Delcane told her sister that this was a stupid question, because of course, Maya liked their older brother more. But Aisha protested. The brunette, as an argument, noted that if Aisha liked the priestess more, then she would not hesitate before the answer. The offended Aisha left them, and Delcane approached the daughter-in-law, and in that case suggested that they play together without Aisha. But the girl heard this, and did not agree to such an outcome of events. Children began to pull the blonde by the hands in different directions. Delcane proposed to show the girl a mansion, and Aisha assured that she knew the mansion better than her brother, and she would show herself. But suddenly, the girl stopped her ardent speech and froze for a moment, looking blonde directly into her eyes. Maya asked Aisha in order of Li, and she asked Maya what she had just done to her. The girl, completely understanding anything, said that she did nothing, but the brunette ordered not to lie to her. Aisha told her brother that the priestess used on her that strange trick that the twin also had to know about. The girl had just for a moment felt that her forces had disappeared, and her heart definitely missed a blow. But at the same time, the sensation was pleasant. Nevertheless, she thought that she would go crazy because she liked it. The blonde thought that the same thing possibly happened to the child, as with Raka then, in the hut. Perhaps Maya, and this time, used her abilities by chance, without even understanding what she had just done. To check her theory, Maya asked Aisha again to take her hand, but she bounced off and categorically refused. Then the girl thought that everything was in order with Delcane. Then why did her ability work on Aisha and Reike? Maya asked him not to feel strange when he held her hand, in response to what Delcane flared up. The boy believed that Aisha lied about the sensation, and did it in order to look good in the eyes of the daughter-in-law. The blonde was afraid that now their relationship could deteriorate because of her, and the twins would quarrel. Then Maya asked Delcane to come closer, and said that it seemed to her that Aisha was telling the truth. When asked Delcane about where the daughter-in-law knew this, she did not find what to answer, so as not to substitute herself and Raku. Therefore, instead of telling the truth, Maya said that Ashi was not in the character of Aisha so brazenly. The boy agreed with this, but still doubted his sister's words. Maya suggested that he go and calm the twin. Then Delcane gloomily asked if Maya wanted to take a walk with Aisha, but the blonde believed that it was more fun together. The boy would like to object, but agreed and said that he would obey his daughter-in-law. She smiled broadly at him, crouching a little to be at the same level with him, and stroked the brunette through her hair. The boy went to his sister to reassure her, but it seemed only worse for his incredulous remarks. He asked Aisha if the daughter-in-law did her badly, but the girl said that on the contrary, she felt good enough. Then Delcane said that since she liked it, then she should not bounce and behave in this way. Perhaps in the end, the daughter-in-law would really marry her brother, which means they need to be in good relations with her. Aisha, like a capricious child, again began to say that they should not allow her brother to marry her. The girl went to the nanny and apologized. If you think about it, it was her fault and must have taught her a good lesson. Having decided to translate the topic, the girl asked Aisha when she conducted her an excursion to the castle. She was eager to see everything, but the girl remembered that the priestess had a leg, which means they could not go to watch the castle right now. But the fair-haired man insisted on a walk, and pointing her finger in a random direction, offered to start from that place. That's just in the direction where Maya showed. There was their brother. It was necessary to get around. Otherwise, the Gemini would have flew for absenteeism. Maya felt a little fragile pen pulled her sleeve, attracting attention. It was Aisha who asked the priestess to take her hand. She agreed to go for a walk only on such a condition. Maya seemed to be very sweet, and she hoped that nothing would happen to Aisha because of her strength. To play up and intent to make contact, Aisha took the priestess by the index fingers, pulling behind her. The girl thought that it would be safer, but the priestess was not sure that due to less contact, the force decreased. Nevertheless, they stopped at this. And then Aisha asked Maya whether she could call her sister. The girl allowed, and after that, she and the twins walked on the castle for a long time until the day was over. She became very close to the twins and then returned to her room. It is strange that so much was paid for such work. It was enough for the girl to earn only 6,000 cores, and then she could quit and live a free, happy life. Thinking about this, the girl suddenly heard some strange sounds that came from under her bed. She decided to bend over and check what was the source of this unusual noise. Well, or who was a source? Looking under the bed, the girl found that two sparkling eyes looked at her from the darkness and immediately bounced, screaming. The night mystic immediately ran to the screams that he took place not far away. He asked the nanny what happened. She answered him a little nervously. Supposedly, she just accidentally fell out of bed. The knight told her to be more accurate. After that, the knight left, and a small raccoon got out of the bed. It was a territory in the guise of a new animal. Maya appreciated the choice of God as cute, but a little dirty. He hoped that the girl would appreciate his hickers. He thought that since he was dear, she would like it, and she told him such muck. Maya said that the dirt remained mud. Tritos notified her that he came to tell her about her forces. The girl had been waiting for this for a very long time, so she was glad. God invited them to sit on the bed, because the floor was hard, but the girl said that he would not allow him to climb a clean bed. After that, she even accidentally pushed the territory so that the poor raccoon flew away from her to the side, hitting a flower pot. She immediately took him in her arms and apologized for her oversight. The girl was worried that God would not hurt. After that, Tritos decided that he would never take the face of a raccoon again, since she had such a sharp attitude towards him. She asked him not to be angry, ironically saying that the merciful Tritos could not be angry with the girl. He said gloomily, "The Maya knows how to choose the right words." In the matter, she thought that he would be offended, but this did not happen. After that, the raccoon began to explain to her that strange phenomena began to happen with Maya due to the fact that she did not give a blessing. The girl asked him why this happened due to the blessing and why her unification was associated with the flower of Shakira. Tritos said that the flower was absorbed if it was accepted in an acceptable amount and had such an influence as stimulants. Simply speaking, the Shakira flower also had the characteristics of the substitute for a love potion. She never turned to him as she returned, so the ability could appear only when contact. The girl scolded the raccoon that he did not immediately tell her about this, and he replied that he had come running right away as he found out about their contract. He once again reminded that she could fix everything if she blessed Keeney's, But the girl did not want to hear about it. Maya took him by the scruff and menacingly, with a challenge, invited God to repeat what he had just said. He demanded her to let him go, but the blonde wanted God to first tell her about another way to use power. Raccoon said that there was a relic, similar to its energy, and it had to be isolated. Then the blonde asked if God would bring her one such relic that was very offended by the territory. He was not obliged to listen to her, but the girl frightened him so much that he agreed to provide her with a soil service. Since they figured it out with everything, the territory was about to leave. But the girl had another question that she wanted to know the answer. Tritus told her that if she used her forces with red intentions, then the abilities did not affect her in any way, and her forces could not act on ordinary people, but only on people who possessed abilities. Then Maya realized that her forces did not act on Delcane, because he was not a black magician like Aisha and Raka. It was very difficult for the girl to believe that only touching she produced the effect of aphrodisiac or a love potion. So what's the difference between the main character and the extras? Rhine's power could simply euthanize people, unlike her. But Maya could not control her strength. She was so glad to work here, and now she was not sure of anything. Over the past few days, the girl has been very tired, and rather morally than physically, so I just wanted to forget myself. Regrets could not change anything, alas. If you do nothing, then nothing to change. Therefore, the girl decided to just try to act, then accept the situation. She had to cope. Behind her thoughts, she did not notice how she fell into a dream. And she woke up from the fact that she was awakened by the maid. The girl introduced herself to Rita. She worked in the eastern wing of the castle, and Raka now sent her to the nanny. The Duke asked Maya to call him. Although the time was already later than midnight, and everyone was already sleeping in the castle, the blonde thought that tomorrow was listed in the contract, like the first worker. But now he came. The nanny asked the maid to convey to the Duke that she was sleeping, but the Duke's desire, unfortunately, was higher than her. The girl had no choice but to gather and ask Rita to lead her to the Duke's room. But the woman stopped her and said that, for a start, the blonde should have changed into sleeping clothes. The maids prepared a night dress for Maya, and Rita happily showed and gave it to the fair, haired, sending it to change clothes. Maya did not think that the Duke was needed to change her clothes, but Rita grinned. She thought differently. The girl tried to dissuade the persuasion of the woman and reminded that the Duke allowed her not to wash or change clothes. The guy handed over these words to the maid, so she was aware that the Duke was loyal to the wishes of the girl. But, in any case, Raka wanted Maya to be comfortable because she was so worried, because this is the first working day. It was then that Rita realized that she, as a maid of the Duke family, had to do everything necessary for this. Ultimately, Maya nevertheless changed clothes and already soon stood on the threshold of the Duke's room. Noticing that the girl finally came, the guy invited her to finally go inside the room and not stand in the aisle. She felt embarrassed enough and embarrassed, not understanding how she should behave and what to do. The words sounded in my head that in moderate amounts of its forces they reassured, but with strong contact were a stimulant. She understood that she should have avoided all contacts until the territory would bring her the sacred relic that he was talking about. Noticing the girl's anxiety, the guy asked her to have any problems that disturbed her. She said no. Then Raka said that, in this case, let it take off her robe and lies next to him. Maya was alarming in alarm why she would take off her robe, and Raka explained that it was just too hot in the room. The girl categorically refused to shoot him. The guy did not understand. Wouldn't she be hot in a bathrobe and under the blanket? But the fair-haired stood on her own. She decided that it was better to mate than Raka would see her nightshirt. Then the brunette had suspicions that the girl could hide something under her robe. She joked, assuring him that this was not so. But Raka considered this quite possible, given the strange behavior of Maya. Trying to take away the Duke's suspicion, Maya substantiated her anxiety by the fact that she had problems with the shoot. The guy believed in this and said that the daughter of God himself would never have done such things in the evil mind. Due to the fact that Raka, instead of calm conversations, constantly clung to her, the girl felt tension next to him. The brunette suddenly said that, although he did not know what made her escape from the temple, but he would also hide it in her place. The blonde was pleased to understand that the brunette understood her and did not condemn her for excessive secrecy. maybe he was not so bad. The guy, noticing the girl's thoughtfulness, asked why she had such a stupid look, and the girl instantly changed her mind. She said resentfully that her gaze was not stupid at all, and frowned. Raka moved closer to her and smiled. In fact, he chatted with her about it to everyone only to relax. He leaned back on the pillows and with a grin said that he would be uncomfortable to sleep with a man resembling a log from excitement. Besides, if she was uncomfortable, was he better from this? They had mutual relations. That is why they were needed by each other. The girl could not disagree with the words of the Duke. When she finally calmed down, the guy lay on his side, propping his head with his hand, and then suggested that she go to bed next to him. Still experiencing because of the words of the territory, Maya hoped that Raka would allow her to sleep separately for at least one day. The guy crouched on the bed and asked her what happened this time. Maya asked to give her 2 more days. She hoped that there was enough for 2 days to make Treatise bring her the promised relic, and then she could sleep with Raka. The Duke showed her that she violated the contract. The girl dismissed, saying that he had not paid her yet. In the contract, there was a clause that in case of violation of Maya, paid a fine 3 times more than the amount of salary received. But, since Raka has not paid anything to her yet, she did not bear responsibility for this. She went to the door, but as soon as she reached, the brunette pressed her against the wall. It seemed to him that the priestess was always trying to run away from him. Maya said that this was completely wrong, and Raka replied that in this case, he did not want to wait another 2 days. Having managed to see the Duke's face close, Maya thought that the guy looked very tired. How much did he not sleep? With every second, Raka was angry more and more. He wanted to understand why the girl made him wait another 2 days. Realizing that he was straining her with his proximity, Raka walked away. But he wanted to know why the blonde always avoided him. The guy wanted to honestly talk, so he took her hand. But Maya pickedly understood what this touch was fraught with. She tried to pull out her hand until her strength began to act on Raku, but the guy was stronger than her. And in the next instant, abilities again had a stupefaction effect on Raku. He froze in place. Immediately, a smile appeared on the Duke's face, and the voice became affectionate. She knew that it would be so. Not wanting to aggravate the situation, Maya pushed the young man and told him to stand a few meters from her and not to approach. She hoped that now Raka would go what effect she had on him and why she asked her to give her 2 more days. The effect quickly dissipated, and it came to his senses. Raka frowned as he lost his head from such a little contact. He sat on the bed and lowered his head. He knew that the larger the contact area was, the more difficult it was to keep his mind. But when he simply held her hand, everything was in order, as Raka said, so there was an exception. Now Maya realized why, in the contract, it was stated to sleep with his hand to his hand. Nevertheless, this night Raka let her go. The girl immediately jumped out of the room, and the brunette remained sitting alone, drowning the floor in the room with an annoyed look. Walking along the corridor, Maya tried to understand why she felt so awkward. Why did Raka want to sleep with her so much? Why should it be exactly her? Did Raka, like Emperor Keynes, couldn't sleep without a Jakira flower? If this was so, then Maya was extremely surprised. Probably, she should have read the original story more carefully. Raka lay on the bed in his room and thought about how difficult it was to believe what happened from touching the palm of his hand. He suspected that this could happen, but this time the guy realized something else for himself. The emotions that arose from Maya were definitely a desire, not just the effect of strength. The young man covered his face with his hands and rolled over on his side. Why couldn't he sleep and controlled himself poorly? Hearing some kind of knock on the door, the guy started up. Is it Maya returned? But the door opened and not Maya entered the room, but Aisha, who could not fall asleep, but also suffered from the fact that her head hurt. She went to her older brother and hugged him. The girl said that Delcane had already fallen asleep, but she still could not. Aisha said that in an attempt to fall asleep, she had already considered 1,000 sheep, but the dream still did not come to her. Raka thought that this must be due to the use of black magic. Therefore, he was opposed to Aisha studied her. Each time, when Aisha conjured, her body became weaker and magic is stronger. Anxieties and fears crawled out of there. The Duke tried to persuade his sister to stop using black magic, but she was stubborn and said she would think. Raka desperately wanted to prevent the twins from becoming unhappy, but the cruel education of their parents prevented him from protecting the children. The twins were taught not to show their weaknesses, and also said that the black magic of Antya was a unique ability. Parents believed that suffering is the price of power. When Raka became an adult, he expelled the old duke and the duchess. If he learned about the consequences of black magic before, he would never have allowed the children to suffer like that. But it was already too late. Aisha thought that Raka was simply angry due to the fact that she was very similar to her older brother. For example, he told her the wit that when she was stubborn, she was very similar to the senior Aintia. Raka was glad to talk to Setra, but it was time to sleep, so he told her to stop fooling and going to bed. The guy grabbed her in his arms and threw her on the bed next to him, covering her blanket. The girl had no other choice. The young man told her to close her eyes and try to fall asleep again. Aisha reluctantly, but still agreed to try again. After a conversation with Aisha's brother, her head even stopped hurting, and he told her to fall asleep until the pain returned. Aisha said that on this day in her brother's room, it smelled especially pleasant, and this aroma was very, very relaxed. A moment! The girl dawned on the smell, and she asked her brother Evil, was he really sleeping with his sister? The next day, the weather on the street was a wonderful and bright sun illuminated the roof of the ancient castle. Maya woke up early enough and drank tea that there was nothing better in the morning than a cup of hot drink. While she drank tea, Rita suddenly ran into the room and began to shout that Aisha suddenly disappeared somewhere. Rita said she was passing next to Aisha's room. The doors were open, and the room itself was empty for the rotation. Maya was upset that this happened on her first working day. The maid said that Raka was not yet in the know. Rita suggested that Aisha simply again slipped away before the etiquette lesson. She often did that. Maya asked where then she could try to look for a girl, but Rita said that they had never found a brunette. Because of this, the past nanny had problems. The blonde was annoyed that Aisha decided to start the war early in the morning. In search of the girl, Maya walked along the estate and decided to call Delcane, but Rita replied that he was also looking for her sister. The blonde went out on her balcony and accidentally noticed Delcane, who was digging in the garden. In a small hole in front of him lay an animal. Maya saw that Delcane buried some squirrel, but decided not to tell anyone about it, keeping his secret. The nanny didn't even have to look for a long time. Soon Aisha herself came running to her and began to ask if the Mayan was the truth with her brother. An excited blonde confidently answered the girl that this was not so. Why would a brunette ask about this? But the girl did not satisfy the girl's response. She ordered her to not lie to her and tell the whole truth about them with her brother. Maya repeated her words, but Aisha pointed to Rita and asked why then the maid was so embarrassed. The frustrated Aisha screamed to his sister that sleeping with Raka, bust, as soon as she could do that. The girl said that Maya had not slept with her yet. How then she dared to sleep with Raka's first, then with her? The nanny tried to explain that Rita was embarrassed for other reasons, but the dark-haired woman was confident in her rightness. Trying to somehow get out of this situation, Maya suggested that Aisha sleep together if Raka resolves. Aisha said that he would settle everything. The maid admired how reliable the girl was, that Maya believed her so. The girl sparkled with a radiant smile and asked if the Maya really believed that the brunette would be able to agree with Raka. Maya, stuttering a little from the nerves, replied that of course she believed because of the conviction of the youngest. Suddenly, he went into the room wide and irritably asked Aisha what she did in the chambers of the nanny. The young man reminded the youngest that there was a time for her etiquette lesson, and the girl brazenly walked. He threatened her widely that he would go now and tell her older brother that Aisha did well. The girl was very angry that he substituted her so much, and he asked the girl not to play with his name when he was angry. The next instant, Aisha had already flew out of the room. The blonde was surprised at what obscure the girl was. The nanny smiled. She perfectly understood Harkter and the behavior of the younger, and why she got angry. Now he turned his attention to the girl and apologized for not introducing her at once. He corrected this. Maya was replaced by the name of the latitude, because it literally translated as, I hate work. She tried not to laugh. He led the girl into the library and said that she could look after the Gemini here and remind them of classes. And also, The assistant to the Duke recalled that her duties were to prevent the children from getting into trouble. The guy wished her good luck, saying that he was thinking that she was a good nanny and be sure to cope. Maya thanked him. He also spent her on the castle and showed that the twins' rooms were in the western wing and there was a dining room. If you go right along the corridor, then she could just come to that wing. In the same place, by the way, the Duke's bedroom was. He explained widely that the main building was mainly intended for events, work, and entertainment. When they reached the right place, the guy pointed her to Delcane and Aisha's room. Maya said thanks to him. The young man apologized, because he had to show her all this before. The nanny thought that he spoke very beautifully. She has not met such people for a long time. The more I watched the pain, the more I understood that he was a kind and honest person. At that moment, another person suddenly appeared in the corridor. It was a tall woman aged. The Maya has never met her until this moment, so there was no idea who it was. But a woman was dressed with dignity. The first that this brown-haired woman said was the indignation that Maya allegedly blocked her path. The Width, completely not surprised, said that the lesson apparently ended. He introduced the blonde as a new nanny. By that time, Maya had already figured out who it was in front of her, so she greeted Countess to test. But instead of the return greeting of the brown-haired man with contempt, and boldly said that Maya was dressed like a rogue, the woman also said that the fair-haired must have a very low origin, literally from slaves. He stood up for her and told the Countess that, apparently, a misunderstanding arose. He hastened to disagree with the harsh statement of the woman and said that the new nanny was not a slave. The Countess still thought that she was right, but invited the girl to tell about her origin in order to convince her. The nanny immediately thought that he must have not known the truth. Only Raka was in the know who she really is. The Countess continued to aggressively express her position. She heard that not so long ago the Duke was in the slave market. She thought that the reason was that he lacked the nannies, but assured that the nanny was not connected with this. Having made an attempt to peacefully finish the dialogue, Maya suggested that the Countess was probably in a hurry. They could talk later. But the woman became even more displeased and said that she did not think that they could cross her again. And then she said that she was joking. But Maya was not at a loss and laughed calmly, quite calmly, from the words of the Countess. When she asked why the girl laughed, Maya replied that she thought that the Countess loved to joke. But apparently not. The patience of the woman came to an end, and she, angry, swung behind the fair-haired man for such impudence. But at that moment, Aisha and Delcane ran out into the corridor to see what was happening outside the doors of their bedroom. The children noticed that the Countess waved to their nanny and began to accuse her of being wanted to hit her sister. The brown-haired woman, in order not to enable the twins, pretended that they, on the contrary, had just met, and she wished Maya good luck. But the children, seeing the fact that the Countess closed to May, regarded it like a woman had just hit her in her shoulder. Hearing children's screams, the Duke also appeared in the corridor, dissatisfied with the fact that they divorced such noise and quarrels here. The guys joyfully waved their hands to his brother, saying that he came just in time. Maya already managed to forget about him. The children asked Raku if he knew what he had done with his sister. He frowned that he heard that she had been hit. The Countess very deliberately, politely greeted the Duke. Maya tried to explain Aintia that they all understood not so. But the woman was the first to make excuses and say that there was a misunderstanding. She did not try to hit the nanny. She said that the Gemini accused her only because she scolded them during the lesson. She lied very skillfully. But since the twins were not scolded today, they hastened to say this, and the Countess assured that she scolded them for being late. The fair-haired man could not allow the twins to be scolded for what they did not do. Because of her, Maya interceded the elders' conversation and suddenly admitted that the Countess really tried to hit her. She decided that they accidentally collided here, and then the brown-haired woman called her a former slave. The Countess tried to abandon her words, to prove that this was not, but Maya enlisted the support of the breadth. The assistant to the Duke confirmed that the blonde was telling the truth, and after that, the Duke did not want to listen to the woman's excuses. Delcane unexpectedly, brutally suggested just killing the Countess for such arrogant and sharp behavior towards their nanny. The Duke asked what reasons they had for this, and the boy replied that the woman insulted the nanny and accused Aisha of a lie. Raka gloomily agreed, saying that this was equated with disrespect for him, so her fault was obvious. The joyful Aisha suggested turning a woman into a powder for this. It turns out that now the twins did not need to go to classes. Maya was afraid that Aintia really could have killed her, so she rushed to the Duke and seriously said that it was impossible. At the same moment, she realized that she did not notice how she touched Raka. Now he had to change? But at the same time, she could not let him go. What was the guy going to do in this situation? The brunette softened and asked why the Countess should not be killed. Maya replied that it was not in her interests to look at this. Then the Duke suggested not to erase it into powder, but to do it with dust. But the fair-haired said that it was one and the same. The guy offered one after another, new variants of how they could deal with a poor guilty woman. The Duke confidently said that he was not going to endure that he was treated in this way. Especially, he could not allow someone to touch and offend Maya. Her comfort was important to him. It seemed to the girl that the more she touched Raku, the stronger the effect became the following times. The blonde assured him that she could not help but worry. They should not have killed the Countess. This will have consequences. She promised that she was ready to do everything for him, but really wanted the guy to listen to her in this case. Raka straightened her light strands with his hand, and smiling at how kind and noble the girl was, he told her that he realized that he should not have killed, but instead to take care of the fair-haired man, which she was delighted. The brunette broke into a gentle smile and told Maya that if she wanted so much, but he would not kill a woman. Having achieved her, the blonde pushed the Duke from herself, thereby ending with the effect of touch. All this time, Delcane had to close the Evoy Aisha's mouth, who wanted to be outraged by the proximity of the elders. Aisha still wanted them to punish a proud upstart, but instead, the Duke invited them to calm down and dine. The Aintia family, along with Maya, went down to the dining room, where they had already set a table with chic dishes. The girl froze, looking at the set table. From how delicious everything that the cooks were prepared looked delicious. From her appetite, her saliva almost did not flow, and Raka asked her to recover and stop behaving strangely. Everyone began to eat, and during lunch, Delcane noticed that the sister again ate meat, so he offered to try potatoes. Aisha said that her sister's potatoes had a different taste, and this one was made as if for vegetarians. Nevertheless, Delcane handed her a plate with potatoes and said that it was prepared from the same ingredients. The girl tried, but she did not like neither the taste nor the view of the dish, and she got angry because of this. Maya asked the girl to spit on a napkin if she did not like food, because otherwise such behavior was unacceptable. Aisha, hearing that she was scolded, asked Lili Maya because of the manners and whether she would now refuse to sleep with her. Hearing these words, the Duke frowned and asked his sister what she was talking about. Then Aisha told her brother that the nanny said that they could sleep together. She thought her brother already knew. Maya thought that for the sake of her own future, she was supposed to take the side of Aisha. She admitted that she promised it. The Duke was clearly unhappy. The brunette suddenly stated that her sister would sleep with her, starting from this day. Brother sternly asked for the truth. In his lilac eyes, either resentment or angry stinging sparks was read. The girl tried to gesture to hint the brunette that they could discuss everything later, not with children. But the Duke did not understand the hint, and, seeing its active gestures, only asked if she felt bad. The brunette told the maid to bring medicines for the nervous tic, but Maya jumped up, assuring that she was in order. She wanted to explain to the Duke that she meant her wink, but the children looked at them, so she had to be silent. Therefore, the girl reconciled and calmly sat back in her place. She agreed that she was really tired. Delcane could not miss it past his ears, and asked the girl if the nanny was really tired. Maya confirmed and said that, probably, she would immediately get better after eating and rest, so she should not worry. Aisha at that moment ate potatoes, wanting to please the girl with her obedience. She admitted that she could not eat anymore, and after that, part of the potatoes, the girl spat out carefully into the napkin, which was no less pleased with Maya. The nanny was pleased that Aisha corrected the habit immediately after her words, and could not help but praise the obedient girl. Maya said that Aisha could start to eat vegetables in the near future at such a pace. The girl was happy to praise. The Duke recalled that the nanny still had to drink the medicine, but he pretended to be not heard about their agreement with Aisha. Aisha was indignant at why he was worried about a girl with a nanny or not, but Raka categorically refused his younger sister. Then the girl flared up and said loudly that since Raka was sleeping with her, then the brunette also had the right to do so. Raka was embarrassed and asked who said Aisha like that. She replied that she asked the servants. Her brother would not tell her the truth. The brunette said that if Maya would sleep with the brunette, then it would be overtime, so he refused. The girl was upset and barely restrained her tears of resentment. Raka asked her to respect the personal life of his nanny. Maya sat silently and in tension. She understood that the situation completely got out of control. After lunch, the Duke left the dining room and headed for the corridor, somewhere about his business. The fair-haired one got up after him and wanted to know where Raka was heading and whether they could discuss everything. The brunette turned around and answered her that he was just going to his personal account. Then the blonde suggested that he return and console Aisha, but Raka said that the girl rolled tantrums too often. Maya believed that Raka was too rude, and he told her that he simply could not sleep at all that night. Finally, the Duke admitted to the girl that he simply could not sleep at all without her. He did not even close his eye after he lost consciousness then, at their meeting. She asked why this was happening. The guy said that the Antia family used black magic. Maya had to understand this because of Aisha. The reckoning for the use of forces were the voices of the dead that they heard. It was worth only to close their eyes. In the Empire, black magic was guarded, but there was one particularly forbidden spell, because of which the magician later heard the voices of the dead. At this moment, the fair-haired realized that Rocky had to use this spell, and therefore he was now looking for a Shakira flower. Aisha tried to appropriate the nanny, and therefore Raka was angry. If Maya will sleep with her, then he would have to suffer without sleep. Now the fair-haired realized why the guy behaved so strangely. She could understand his motives and experiences. At that moment, Maya remembered the fact that the more they had contact with Raka, the more she had strength. Suddenly, Maya asked the guy what he planned to do, and said that she was going to immerse him in his agreement by his consent. She explained that the twins still had no more classes on this day, so she could devote her time to him. The girl did not even know that he could not fall asleep, or that she worked for the strength even with a little contact. But now she knew it. Raka must have been terribly exhausted due to the fact that she left yesterday, so she asked if he had time. She suggested the young man that he was busy, so she said that he would come later. But Raka agreed. He quickly strode along the corridor towards his room, so that Maya barely kept up with a decisively tuned Duke. Rake was difficult to admit aloud, so he confusedly admitted that he really died of exhaustion. They entered his room together. The curtains were tightly drawn and was dark enough for a comfortable sleep. Maya asked, unless he was stuffy because of the eternally drawn curtains. But Raka did not like the light, so he was pleased. The guy said that the Shakira flower was very difficult to purchase, so he did not use it every night. It turned out that the brunette, because of his problem, had to sleep for a long time only once every 2 to 3 days. Maya mentally suggested that Raka in the novel committed crazy acts because he could not sleep, going crazy. Raka sat on the edge of his bed and called the girl to him. Why did she stand as a room at the other end of the room? The girl asked if she could sit in a chair and did not lie down. The guy asked, could she really sleep in a chair? Maya hastily replied that she could not, so Raka again called her to her and offered to lie down nearby. He bowed his head a little to one side, begging her, hoping that the girl would agree to sleep with him like normal people. The girl was very embarrassed by only the thought of this, so she explained that she herself was not going to sleep. She sat on a chair and said that she would just sit here and watch how the Duke was sleeping. Maya argued that she had already enough sleep, but the Duke said that he would call her at night. Raka explained that he simply could not fall asleep if someone would sit opposite and look at him. The fair-haired one felt a little awkward due to the fact that she came here to lull him and not sleep together. Suddenly, Maya still agreed, because if they sleep now, then it meant that she would not have to come at night. But before lying, the fair-haired wanted to open the curtains and breathe a little fresh air to calm down. Raka did not argue, but asked her to sit on the bed in this case so that he could change into sleeping. Raka headed for his wardrobe to get comfortable clothes for himself, since he had time for this. The girl sat on the bed. She decided that she would close the window when Raka would return, but she heard some sounds. She turned around and saw Raku, who was just taking off his day shirt. She did not think that she would catch him. Maya immediately turned confusedly, feeling her cheeks burned very much. She pretended not to see anything. Dressing, Raka asked her where Maya was looking right now and what she was thinking about. She said she looked at the butterflies. The girl nervously explained that a butterfly flew outside the window and then quickly changed the subject, noting that Raka was trained. He confirmed this, saying that he had daily training with the sword that he visited to be in shape. When Raka changed clothes, he asked a little indignantly how for a long time the girl was about to look at him. He said that he would not stop if she continues to stare at him, and then Maya will see other parts of his body. The embarrassed girl jumped on the spot and excitedly stated that she did not want to see anything else. She turned away and could not help but think that Raka was clearly the most pumped butterfly she saw. Maya, as if by chance, said that the room became hot, and therefore her face blushed so as not to admit her embarrassment. Raka allowed her to breathe fresh air before going to bed, and he asked if she wanted to say something. The girl said no. She was already thinking about it, but it was still hard for her to understand what Raka was for a person. She went to the balcony of his room, and with blessed pleasure, allowed the cool wind to refresh her skin. After a few moments, Raka also looked out into the balcony and said quietly from the shadow, "Charming." He said that Maya looked beautiful, with her eyes closed. He no longer remembered when the last time he rested as with her. The girl clearly did not expect to see such a vulnerable side of Raka, so she did not quite know what she should have answered. But instead of an answer, the girl realized that it was better to use her abilities and calm Raku with actions, not words. Maya was interested in checking whether her power on Raka would work as well as on Aisha if he takes her by the finger. The guy was noticeably surprised, and then the girl said that he could not remember when the last time was resting she would help. It would be nice for him to take his chance and again feel such a long-awaited peace. The young man smiled at her with a calm smile and said that he, right, was worth a guess himself. But in terms of the girl, there was one problem. Raka had too big a hand so that he could calmly hold onto his finger. They compared their palms without touching each other and made sure that Raka's hand was too large. Then Maya sat on the bed next to him and explained how it was worth lying correctly to the guy. Thinking something, she touched Raka's palm with her little finger and asked if he would feel something from it. She was interested in checking whether forces would work with such the slightest contact and whether Raksh would feel good. The guy really became a little calmer. Then Maya asked him to close his eyes, and he obediently did it. Noticing that the guy was lying quite calmly, she asked his well-being. The brunette, with a blissful smile, said that he now understood what it was, to relax under the sun with his eyes closed. He opened his eyes and smiled gratefully to the girl. Only thanks to her could he feel good again. If they had not met, then the guy would not have thought that he could once feel so good again. The girl confidently said that from now on, she will help him to feel it always when he needs it. But the next instant, she realized that under the influence of the moment she blurted out, did not understand what. She was in a small confusion and already invented how to justify herself. "Have you agreed?" Spoke to myself. Immediately, the girl decided to justify her words by the fact that this duty was simply registered in her contract. She needed to pull herself together. Nothing good would have come out of the connection between the main character of the novel. She got up and closed the curtains. Maybe he behaved well with her, but Raka was a bastard, and the most terrible and cruel villain in the original. And the attractive appearance of Raki went only as the second chief male character. She could not allow the appearance and manners of the Grey Cardinal to fool her and force her to trust. The room became very dark due to closed curtains. Maya only thought that she could not fall in love with the Duke. The girl lay down on the bed next to Raka, and they agreed that she would again join his hand with one little finger. Then Raka was able to calmly close his eyes and feel how warmth and reassurance spread over his body. Suddenly, he asked Maya when she was about to close her eyes and try to fall asleep. She was surprised that he noticed this even with his eyes closed, and he explained that Maya just looked at him intently. The girl said that he would fall asleep now, but he replied that she would believe only when she would close her eyes with him. She closed it specifically for him, and then the guy was able to calmly fall asleep. And Maya thought when she should wake him up. Lying in bed next to the Duke, The fair-haired realized that in fact, she herself was tired. After some time, Maya opened her eyes, not understanding how much time passed, whether it was a dream or reality. Raka hung over her, shaking her shoulder. He wanted to make sure that the girl finally woke up. She was frightened that in a dream she could increase contact with Raka, and that she should not then fall asleep at all. She asked the Duke to move away from her, but the guy smiled insidiously instead, and asked to call him by name. The guy pressed the girl to the bed, hanging over her. She asked him to let her go, but he said that he did not want to. The girl assured him that he said so only from the fact that he was not in himself, but Raka did not agree with this. He said that he was now and then he was one person, but the girl knew better about how they were different. The guy leaned closer to her, approaching the ear itself, and whispered quietly that he really wanted to touch her. He said that he liked her so much that he would be glad to even die right now for her. Maya tried to stop him, but for some reason after that, the guy only heated more. She touched his head with her hand, trying to push away from herself, and thought that irreparable could happen at such a pace. Raka removed her hand and reminded that he had no fever. The guy from her actions did not even move into an inch. At Maya, he nevertheless released her wrist, but did not get off her, even though the girl asked. The blonde thought to herself that it was foolish to believe that she could reach him, but when Raka invited her to bring a new pillow to make it more convenient, Maya realized that it was her chance to escape. When Raka moved a little, she took her pillow, swung and hit the guy to free herself. She hit him in the face with a pillow, but the Duke did not even move. This blow did not work on him. The brunette took the pillow out of her hands and frowned. Was she really going to cut it down with this pillow? Nevertheless, this returned the guy self-control. He did not swear, but even vice versa, he said to do it when he would lose control. But he warned Maya that she should be very careful so that he did not understand what she was going to do. Maya scratched his head a little uncertainly and said that then let the guy not take his words back later. Meanwhile, the brunette looked at his watch and asked the girl that it was 7 o'clock in the evening. They slept longer than Maya expected. The guy told the girl that even though he has a lot of work, he could deal with her tomorrow and asked, "Do you want to have dinner?" Maya answered him that no. She wanted to leave, but the Duke suddenly told her that he was spinning. He leaned back on the pillows and told her that he thinks that they should sleep more so that he began to feel good. Maya was indignant at this, but the brunette told her that the girl was sleeping every day, so she has enough 5 to 6 hours. But he did not. He reminded her that she should follow the terms of the contract. Since the sun was already sitting and there was night, Maya should lie down with it. The brunette reassured her experiences and promised that nothing would happen at night, so she could calmly go to bed nearby. So they calmly overslept until the morning, and the blonde admitted with relief that nothing had happened at night. Noticing that the nanny woke up, Rita entered the room, who brought her some goodies on the tray. The maid called it cookies of love, and then the blonde was happy to take one little thing to dedicate. Cookies just melted in the mouth. Maya praised him and said that it was tasty and very sweet. She asked Rita. The Duke Lee ordered her to bring the nanny this cookies of love. The brown-haired woman confirmed her guess. Rita could not believe that the Duke asked her to cook cookies to the girl. The maid thought he would always be lonely. Maya thought that this cookies were simply called cookies of love, but it turned out that it was just a cookie made with love. At the same time, the Duke was already working in his office. At some point, he called to him a breadth, which was a little excited. The guy was wary that the brunette did not see the whole last day, and now the master also worked slowly enough. Raka muttered the name of Maya to himself, and then he was very fastened when he realized that he had said it aloud at the Shiroma. He tried to reassure him wide that, probably, he was only heard, but the brunette did not deny that the name of the nanny said. Raka asked the guy where he knew that the nanny was called Maya. The wit replied that, thanks to his investigation, the brunette was unhappy that all this time he worked wide, but did not provide him with an intermediate report. Then, he said wide that he found out that Maya was from Liberton. In connection with the prophecy, she was nicknamed God's daughter. Liberton was slums on the outskirts of the empire. Both small and large crimes were common there. He also knew the width that, after Maya took the temple to educate, there was another prophecy that he did not make up. The guy handed Rake a piece of paper on which the prophecy was written, and he began to read carefully. The prophecy said that the daughter of God would bring the inviolability of the great empire when its power was awakened. Raka noted that the girl was concealed from everyone, since to tell about the prophecy, to show the whole world the weakness of the empire. If you think about it, Maya always sought to escape their temple, as if her life threatened her. He promised the Duke Wide that he would learn from Maya the cause of the escape by an unobtrusive conversation when they can make friends. But Raka said that he did not spend his time on this. He was going to recognize the truth from the girl.